You do see that as a slideshow. Okay, good, excellent. Well, hi everybody. I'm very happy to have this workshop with you today. I'm not my usual self, so bear with me, but I'm very excited to talk about this subject and to have you all around the table to work on this CodeMeta v3 review and mappings. I want to say before we start that this work is also funded and kind of supported by two European projects, which is FairCo for EOSC, that you see the logo on the top, and Fair Impact that you see on the bottom. My name is Morane Gruenpeter. You know me here, but since it's recorded, I will say that I am part of the software heritage team. In the European project, I'm Work Package 6 co-lead, and in Fair Impact, I'm a task lead. And this is what brings this work to you today. Now, most of you know CodeMeta, and I don't want to repeat myself, but I will repeat myself because it's important to understand the context we are in. We are working on CodeMeta, which is an initiative. It is also a vocabulary with a subset of schema.org. Recently, we tried releasing the v3. Why I say we tried? Because there is a v3 in place, but we can't identify. I'll get to that in a second. And there is what we call the crosswalk table, which is a collection of mappings that maps the CodeMeta vocabulary describing software to other vocabularies. And I hope that we have time today to kind of work our, diligently and get us a better set of mapping in the future. Maybe not today, but we will get there. Now, in 2020, we launched a CodeMeta task force as part of the Force 11 Software Citation Implementation Working Group, and we already have here two steps that are done, which is this task force discussion to get some of the properties adopted into schema.org, but we were held up because we didn't have a version 3 of the CodeMeta vocabulary. Now that we do have a v3, we could, in the future, in the near future or in the later future, get these properties adopted into schema.org. And I wanted to remind you that it is part of our mission. Now, as I said, the v3 is almost out there. It has a release tag, and these are the changes that you can find directly in the CodeMeta repository. I've also copied the citation that should be available in a few, I hope, days, when we will put it with an identifier on the README of the CodeMeta repository. There's not a lot of changes to this vocabulary, but those changes we waited for those changes for a long time now. And so I hope that with this call, but not only with this call, we can march on towards the promotion and dissemination of the version 3 of the vocabulary. I'm just going to say just a small word here about the CodeMeta generator. Most of you know this tool. It is a tool to generate a CodeMeta.json file. We are also working in parallel to update the tool for this version 3 release, because we will have new properties to add to the form and also change the vocabulary identifier. We will try to have this tool compatible to what we had before with the version 3, so you can choose which file you want to create. So the actual topics that we want to discuss today, well, we want to discuss them a little bit, even though with some of you who are here on the call, we already resolved some of them. With the CodeMeta Project Management Committee, which is the governance body of CodeMeta, we have decided to go with the W3ID. So why it's important to identify the vocabulary? First, because we want to get context file directly when requesting a GLD. We want to get the documentation page for the terms when requesting an HTML. And some of us want also to have individual term identifiers to resolve into these term definitions in the HTML that's requested. Some question arise from that, which identifier to use. So that's actually resolved, but then where to redirect and how to cite it are other questions that we have in mind. And we will also inform you what we can do when we can do next. Now, the activity for this hour, I hope we will have time to do it all. I'm sure we can't do it all, but we will try to do some of it, is to review the mappings. Now, I've copied here an idea, and this is something to discuss with the larger community of CodeMeta, which is you here in the SciCodes Consortium, is to improve the mapping by treating the mappings with the same love and care as our ontologies and vocabularies. This sentence is taken from Nicolas' presentation here of the SSOM for standard, SSSOM, 3 S's. I know some of you know it, but most of you don't. It is a way to format mappings in a way that's more machine actionable. In this way, we publish the mappings in a standard file format using an open license and in a public space. So some of the items here are actually already done, but we want to improve the machine actionability of each one of the mappings. Today, I don't think that we have the time or the capacity to go deeper into this, but maybe we can start trying that with our activity file. So if you are on the notes document for this call, there is a link directly to the activity file. You can go already there to see the instruction. I will get that there after the questions, after the presentation. So just a second, in a few seconds, we'll get there. Now, how we want to review the mapping. There are instructions in this activity file, but first we need to know our target vocabulary. And we do know that some of the properties were changed and some of the properties were added to verify in each one of the mappings that we do have, maybe not all the mappings, but some of them, the ones that we choose to improve during this session, we need to know to see if these properties have a match in the in the source vocabulary. So we have 2 items, the target vocabulary, which is CodeMeta, and the source vocabulary, which will be the other vocabulary that you are reviewing for today's workshop. So I'm finished with kind of setting up the scope. That's I'm thanking you all for being here in the consortium. I'm quite surprised to see so many of you. I think that we will be so many of you here. And it's time for us to crosswalk. So before we start crosswalking, if you have any questions, this is the time to kind of raise your hand and ask questions. Yes, Anita.
Hi, so this is great. I've just looked at the new CodeMeta creator tool. The last time I was engaging with this, that didn't exist. But that tool, what I've looked at, has just about every field that we have. I think it's extraordinarily similar. I mean, there may be an S at the end of some of the words and not in the other one, but those crosswalks should be tremendously straightforward. Can we crosswalk to this form, or do we have to crosswalk back to whatever is the underlying property?
Well, the form is a representation of the vocabulary. So the crosswalking is better to do between the vocabularies, and then it will be straightforward for the form. The form is actually just a representation. So take the or the Google Sheet, because the Excel one where you have all it's a copy of the terms that were in the vocabulary with the description, and use that as a base to see if you can match it. And then for mapping, there's a way where you map where you crosswalk between vocabularies. We have a folder for that. I can show you in a second, but I'll take a few questions and then I will show that for the instructions part. I see, Daniel, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, well, if you're going to do it next, then I may lower my hand. I just wanted to encourage you to show an example, because I don't think we want to change the format of how the mappings are, just complete them a little further, no?
Today, in 45 minutes, I do agree with you, Daniel, that we don't want to change the format. I do want to have us have this in mind, that the mappings at their current state are not machine actionable. I'm not talking about the vocabulary, I'm talking really about the mappings. And this is why I thought that introducing this option to have more machine actionable crosswalks, which are the mappings, would be a better kind of way forward, but not during this small, short session. I don't think that we have the time. So yes, I'm going to show a bit of instruction. Yes, Anita, I see your hand raised again. If it's
no. Go ahead. You were going to say you're going to show instructions, and then we'll do
instruction. Yes. Let me show that. Let's keep the recording up for this part, because it's good to have it in mind. So CodeMeta crosswalk. I don't know if it will be shared directly. Share this tab. Let me know if you see a kind of instruction page. Okay. Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Some high-level items. Join the CodeMeta community and introduce yourself in this discussion note. It will be nice, because then we can animate a little bit more the CodeMeta community. Read the V3 release. So some of the items are copied here from this V3 release, but to review the mapping, it's good to have this in mind. So go and familiarize yourself. Then item number 3 is choose a mapping from an issue, which is our crosswalk review issue. I'm going to open it and share this tab instead. So some of you already chosen a CSV file to work on, which I copied the names that I found in the comments. To choose one, you just put a comment, and I will give you this mapping to work on, the CSV file. Going back to the instruction, if there's no question, don't forget the questions that are now are questions that are recorded. Then find the CSV file in this folder. I'm not going to open it, but in the folder you have all the CSV files of existing mappings. If you want to work on a new mapping, that's completely great and fine, and actually even better. Go ahead and work on a new mapping. Then we need to review the correspondence between the target vocabulary and the source vocabulary. The target vocabulary for us is CodeMeta, and the source vocabulary is the vocabulary that you have chosen. So here it's if it's ASCL, if it's SW Math, if it's I don't know, any other vocabulary that you want to work on, and its translation into CodeMeta. And here are a few items in this review that you need to note. You can check out this in the GitHub file or in the Google Sheet. It depends on you. If you want to copy it somewhere, you can use the Google Sheet. Find the source vocabulary location and content. Check if it's your source vocabulary. There's somewhere that's there's the specifications of this vocabulary somewhere, I imagine, and you need to kind of identify that. Check if there's a one-to-one match with the target vocabulary CodeMeta. If it's an existing file, you can go towards the new properties or the change properties. It will be nice if you review the full vocabulary, but if it exists already, for the time being, maybe having just the new terms verified and reviewed is enough. And note when there is not a one-to-one match. So there is no place actually today where to know this information in the mappings, but it's something. That's why I want to go towards something that's more machine actionable. Note it in maybe in text somewhere to yourself in an issue, so that this identification isn't lost. And then that's the part where you work, because this is more preparation, is you can create a new issue, which is to work on this crosswalk or mapping, or do directly a PR. It depends on the complexity of the things that you have identified as changes that are happening. If there's a lot of things that you want to change, and it might not take like 20 minutes because we have 20 minutes to do it, you can just write an issue about it. If you think that you can do it in a small PR, in a pull request, you can go ahead and do a pull request. And that's about it on this part here. It would be nice, as I see, Daniel, that your hands raised, it will be nice for the purpose of this workshop that we can kind of list who's here and who's working on what, and with the link to the new issue, so we know what has happened during this session. Yes, Daniel. You're muted.
Yeah, no, I'm not muted. I would like to propose a little bit of an extension to one of the rules, which is the following. I would like to add a README file in the. I mean, if you work with one of the CSVs, I would like to suggest to add a README file and state in the README file who has the reviewer been for that. Like, add a minimal metadata there. And that metadata, I mean, we can add it in a README file because I don't think the spreadsheets have, or we can add it in the spreadsheet in a separate column if you want.
That's a great idea. Yes, Daniel. Yes, let's do a README file in the Crosswalks collection folder, so we have the metadata.
So, and what I would like to suggest is, like, on every single crosswalk. So right now we just have the CSV. Let's have the README file and include one example. Like, you need to point to an example of, I mean, if it's available, right? If you are using, I don't know, you're reviewing Python, do you know a Python example of a project that actually you can link to the setup.cfg file or whatever? So we can actually see a real implementation of this if available, and in the README file indicate who has the reviewer been for that particular file, because I found myself trying to ask questions about the mappings and I didn't know who had uploaded what. And finally,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead if you have a final thing to add. Yes.
The final thing, which you already had in the instructions, but maybe I think it's an excellent idea as well, is that if you review a mapping, try to add the rationale of what that mapping could be in a third column in the CSV. So right now we have just the equivalence, right? This is equivalent to that, or this is narrower than that. But we can just say a few words if you know them. If you don't know them, or if you're not sure, then do not add anything. But if you are sure of why this is that way, a small explanation of what that mapping is that way.
So I'm adding at the third column. That's what you suggest, a column with the what is it? A comment column.
Yeah, with the rationale, no?
Rationale. Yeah, rationale. Okay, good. I'm adding that.
And yes, Carol, sometimes the Git plane, sorry, Alan, the Git plane does this kind of thing, but maybe your GitHub user is very transparent, but there are many people for which the GitHub user is at 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So by having the reviewer name explicitly, we will avoid this type of things.
I agree that this information can be retrieved from the commit. So if now you want to ask for the person that did the crosswalking, you can go and find the commit where it was changed and then go and get this. But it will be easier to really have all the information in one place. So we need to figure out how to do it. A README file is really easy to go with at this stage. And I have another question from you, Anita, right? Let me check that. How are we handling multiple CodeMeta files per software tool? That's a good question. I'm not going to answer this question because it depends on the infrastructure that is handling multiple CodeMeta files. And this is not the purpose of this workshop. So let's concentrate here on the work on reviewing with the V3 release the mappings. I'm going to give you some time to do so. We might, if there's no other question, we might stop the presentation part and do some work. The reason I'm not answering this is it really depends on the infrastructure, and I can tell you how we do handle it with software heritage, but if that's of interest to you, but I don't have a global kind of answer for this question. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for now.
Thank you, Mira.
Could have done that.